All right, well, we are going to go ahead and get started. Since it's been a few years since I ran this committee, so it's good to be back. And I had the evidently years ago. Now I'll hopefully won't be like this. That reputation of meetings that I ran went long. So, and I of course never. Took full responsibility for that. I took my colleagues, such as Reverend Matthias and staff. I would like to say that it's a couple of things about decisions that we made in regards to the academic achievement meeting currently. One is we're doing this at 4:30, and I appreciate the staff that are here because I don't know what you would normally be doing at 4:30. I know that this door locks at 4:30, so typically people might be heading out. I really do appreciate that, not for those, I'm sure. So anyway, I still want to acknowledge that this is a request to do things differently than it has been. And during the hours, I felt that it was absolutely important for us to be accessible for teachers to be here, and that's in. I know that even the last time I ran the meetings and we had it, it wasn't that teachers came often, but when they did come, it was important that we were accessible to them. And so I think I'd like to, for at least the next year or two, hopefully that this is a time that teachers can make it. And I tried to reach out to people and make sure that everybody could do this, including the fact that we actually have a teacher on our committee, so who has to teach at Cedar Springs and then get over here. So anyway, secondly, another I think distinction with the Academic Achievement Committee now is that we are, as always, discussing the future of the academic work of Grand Rapids Public Schools, and we're at a time of transition, and so the board is going to really, I think, play a stronger role in how we transition from the current work that's been done around the transformation plan and academic plans for the future, and what will be happening when we make a transition into new leadership. And I think it's really important. So I've talked to Superintendent Nill and then Carolyn Evans about using at least the next few Academic Achievement Committee meetings to really allow the board to have more ownership over the transition of academics, what's really important. So superintendent is looking at the things that are most important for her in terms of the transformation plan and the things that we need to kind of nurture and continue. So that way we share the commitments and can express that commitments to our colleagues and then others. And so, and that does include to some extent the work that we're doing today around summer school, but part of this is that summer is coming and impending, and then we have some other topics that we can discuss at the end. And I would ask at the end, either at the end of this meeting or in the future, for the rest of the people on the committee to discuss with me what topics we should really delve into. So with that, let's go ahead and start. The first item is the Instructional Council update. Oh, actually, thank you. So, any public comment? Okay, seeing no public comment, and hopefully in the future we will have. But next is the Instructional Council update.
Good evening, Dr. Baker, Ms. Downs-Lewis, Ms. Davis, Reverend Matthias. We have two informational items this evening, the first of which is an Instructional Council update. And Dr. Malunge Kalambuli, will you please join me to provide that update?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, so this year I am chairing the council, for Instructional Council for the district. And since we last met, the council has met 2 times. And both times have been focused on how do we help improve instruction in the district. On our first date on January 24th, we focused on how can we provide support for the council members so they know how to better review documents and support what's going to be submitted to us as a council So we spent some time looking at our processes and reviewing the documents so make sure that they are clear, concise, and can do the job for those who submit documents to us for review. And then we met most recently on February 14th, and that time was spent looking at proposal for courses for CF Frost for next year. CF Frost, again, is themed on environmental science. So we reviewed 2 courses that are pathways to provide students a pathway for the AP capstone course that they would take as seniors at CF Frost. So after we heard about the course and reviewed the content of the courses, the council supported the submission of the courses to go forward next year. So we are going to have an environmental science course 1 for freshmen and sophomores at CF Frost next year, and then environmental science course 2 for juniors next year at CF Frost. And the work is being done now to make sure the course is being built to be run and facilitated next year for our students. That's been the work of the council for the last couple meetings we've had, a very productive time.
Actually, as you were speaking, I was thinking we do have a new board member, and rather than assuming she knows what the instructional council is, could you help us to understand what is the mission of the instructional council for one? And then actually, I think I'm kind of rusty on what the current structure is of instructional council. So mission of instructional council and how it's set up.
Yeah, so the council is composed of, actually the composition is composed of GRA members, our teachers, and administration, so various levels of administrators. They play different roles. So on the council, we have special education educators, we have ELL support educators, student data systems educators on the council. And the role really of the council is to bring together this body of educators that can help think through how can we provide the best courses and instruction to our students. The main role that we played most recently in our meeting has been to look at when we look at courses being offered to our schools, are those courses well aligned to standards? Do we have resources to support the courses as they're being taught? And then how can we support teachers to do the work with efficacy so we can have the achievement we want to see in our students? So all the voices of the council members really are listened to as we discuss, dissect what's being submitted to us, provide feedback to the submission teams to go back and improve what is being shared with us. And that varies as to whoever is presenting, as to what they share with us and how we give them feedback to go back and improve on the work. So really, it's a supporting body. It's not a policy creation body. It's supporting the work that's been done in the buildings by teachers and principals so we can have courses in the building that are robust and ready to go.
So if there's a new class that somebody wants to offer, they come through you, and then you bring it to us for approval? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, so when the courses, actually, when someone has an idea for a course, for example, this themed courses that were presented to us from CF Frost, these actually speak to the theme of the school. So in adding that to the student choice and selection guide, there's a system we've set in place to make sure we have the checks and balances to make sure the courses are well aligned to the theme, relative to the state standards, and that they can provide what we need to have kids succeed in the courses. And that council supports that work based on the review process we have, and then the courses may be piloted for a year or 2 years until it's strong enough to really be an ongoing course in the system.
I want to address the way you phrased that. So the board and the GREA created the instructional council. So that's in our contract is to have this instructional council, and the instructional courses go through the instructional council, which the board has given legitimacy to the instructional council to approve courses. The board doesn't approve courses. So we're never held.
No.
I mean, we don't tell people how to teach math. We don't tell people how to teach. I mean, every time. So I think it's really important.
When you bring these new classes, it's just a matter of information. It's not-
Information, because we are not looking for board approval.
Okay.
Right. So it's
You
very,
designated that to the superintendent, and the superintendent has a team.
And the superintendent has a team, and then the teachers have a team, and then they create that That's the idea of it. So the board can ask, what did the instructional council think about this new class? And did it go to the instructional council? And if a course is like in the future, I mean, a lot of what you're going to learn, a lot of what I ask here is based on a time when things weren't done this way and problems resulted. So, but with the board, it is fair to the board to say is that has the instructional council approved this course adoption? But it wouldn't be expected if we're deciding how and what and to teach, that becomes
So
problematic.
when in the past, when those things have been brought to us, it's just a matter of information, that these are things that we are going to do. Okay, that's fine.
And but it's also because it is the instructional council's responsibility to report to the board that it's doing its work and it's moving forward. But sometimes it may lead to like the purchasing of a curriculum
That's right.
that we have to end up paying for that would come through us and then go to the finance committee. But like the new math curriculum, I think would have come through the instructional council, and then that recommendation would come to the board because they're asking us to buy it, not to approve it.
Right.
So.
And in essence, when you approve a budget per se, you're approving to purchase whatever that is. So we opened the museum school. When you approved that, you knew then that we would have a different curriculum, right? And so we were going to come to you at some point. And so it may come through instructional council, but you've already approved the concept, per se, of the transformation plan, which includes a special school. Our Academy for Teaching, we just opened that one. You've also then approved that we're going to purchase something for students and teachers, and you will hear about that through instructional council. But that's a great question.
Yeah.
But it's also appropriate for the board, when it seems as though there is an achievement, to be able to ask about what's going on in terms of curriculum. How are we meeting that? How are we moving towards those changes? And how do we tweak what is there in order to see our achievement go up, right? Yeah.
Okay, thanks
Makes
a
sense?
lot. So.
All right.
So in asking, so are we going to see a report? Are we going to see because I didn't see anything
You won't.
submitted to us
No, we
in terms
give a
of
verbal,
instructional.
we report out to you. You'll see it in the minutes, the report.
Okay.
But actual minutes from the meeting, no, because that's the work of the staff. That's not the board's work.
Okay.
So you will not see minutes, but we do take minutes. But that is not the work of the board.
Yeah, but again, I mean, if you want to say, we're going to teach math differently, did it go to the instructional council? What did the people say in instructional council? That's all fair, yeah.
I just have one question. So at CA Frost, the oldest kids there next year will be juniors?
No, the oldest kids at CA Frost right now are currently seniors. So this is our first
So they're
senior
gonna
class. So
graduate.
you have one more graduation ceremony to attend this year, an additional one,
Thank you.
right? So
Awesome.
we'll
And
make sure we get to
It's
that
amazing
calendar.
how those kids went all the way through high school in just a year and a half. You know, it's
Amazing, it's amazing,
We
yeah.
just broke ground on that place.
We
like
did.
it was like
They're
November.
seniors now, and so this, what we're working on, or what instructional council is working on, it's just the classes that tie into the theme of
So,
environment.
Absolutely. So the administration, the building administration, as well as central office administration, we wanted to ensure that the theme of CA Frost Environmental Science Academy was evident through all curricula at CA Frost. Therefore, if you're in a mathematics course, an ELA course, et cetera, environmental science is infused into that particular course. The math course at CA Frost has to look different from a math course at a traditional high school because this is a theme school. So what they're bringing to instructional council are all of these courses where environmental science is infused into the current curriculum.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, next up, we have a report on summer school. So we have many folks who are going to be providing information to you. The summer school presentation is broken down in a couple of different ways. So we are going to provide some research as it relates to summer school. We are going to also share with you programming and results from the previous school year, the 2018 summer school. And then after that, we're going to talk to you about programming and areas of focus for the 2019 summer school program. And then lastly, Superintendent Weatherall Neal is going to come up front and conclude the presentation. Speaking to you today, of course, we have Mr. Melvin Atkins, Ms. Alex Watson, Ms. Roseanne Wall, Ms. Natasha Neal, and Dr. Maida Gunnell. So you'll see a few folks move in and out as we move through the presentation for summer school. So with that, Mr. Atkins.
I want to say good afternoon, everybody, again. And so I just want to add to what Dr. Gorman just said is it's going to break down from what happened last year, the data, and then some changes we made as a result of that for this year, for elementary, middle school, then high school. And I want to formally introduce Alex Watson. She works in our assessment and evaluation department as a grant and research specialist as well. And she's going to start it.
Good afternoon. As Mel said, we're going to start by just an overview of summer learning loss, kind of what that means and what effect it has on our students, and then really break it down into the elementary, middle, and high school programming, and then staffing as a whole. So the staffing piece will be held till the end. So summer learning loss, we are aware that that occurs. We know that students, when they're leaving in the spring and then coming back in the fall, they're going to be starting at a different spot than they left in. Over the summer, they might not be involved in different academic activities. It's not as same as during the school year. But we want to talk about the extent of that and then what some evidence-based practices are in regards to summer programming. So on average, based on national research, when students come back in the fall, they're performing 1 month behind where they left off at in the spring, and that's on average. If a student is economically disadvantaged, minority population, that's gonna be even further behind. So to equate that to percent, students lose up to 50% of the academic gains that they made during the previous school year. So that's pretty substantial. And then when you think about that for economically disadvantaged students, that's even higher. In addition, children from low-income families lose more, but then substantially more in reading, especially reading comprehension and word recognition. And then on top of that, we've learned that summer learning loss is cumulative. They estimate that up to 66% of the reading achievement gap in 9th grade can be attributed to the summer learning loss that happened in the first 5 years of schooling, so between the K and 4th grade. So obviously we know this is a problem. There's a lot of research around effective practices, especially in large urban school districts that are implementing their own district-run summer programs. And we just want to highlight some of these characteristics of successful programs and to consider this as we are talking about what we want to do in summer 2019. So the first being that there's small class sizes. That's especially important in summer when we have students who are at a deficit in learning and are needing these extra resources. This allows for more individual teaching, something that isn't always available during the school year. Also, making sure that the school year curricula and the summer curricula are aligned. So that helps in that students are able to kind of relearn what they did during the previous school year and then also be prepared for the upcoming school year. It also helps a lot with the sustainability because you can see how it directly aligns with the other work of the school district during the traditional school year. You also want to supplement the academic activities with enrichment activities. So it is a little bit different than what a traditional school year classroom looks like. That will help with the attendance piece as well. Also anchoring the program in an evidence-based curriculum and actually purchasing a curriculum rather than trying to create your own. This helps a lot with fidelity because of the short time span within summer school and for all of the work that it takes to prepare a curricula. It's easier to just buy one that's evidence-based, and it also, they usually have, it's really easy for teachers and staff to implement. Also supporting regular attendance. Obviously we know in this district we need to be promoting attendance, but when it's only a 5 or 6 week program, we need to get the students to the program so that they can really be benefiting from it. Operating for at least 5 weeks, so that will maximize the amount of academic time that they are receiving, and that equates to at least 80 hours of programming. So you want to reach that 5 week threshold, but really focusing on that 80 hours of programming. You want the certified teachers providing instruction and ranked as highly effective, also preferably to have grade and subject matter expertise. That obviously isn't always possible, but that is what the most successful programs had. And then providing teachers, obviously, with professional development up front and using the curriculum, but then also the ongoing support, making sure that they're receiving the ongoing support and using the curriculum if there's any computer-based programming, making sure that's throughout the program. Including a parental involvement component. We know that when you engage parents, there's gonna be more buy-in and they're more likely to continue to send their kids and promote that regular attendance. And then investing in planning early on, making sure that as a district, we're starting early and involving people from multiple departments, so you're really thinking through all the different aspects of that. So these are based on a thorough literature review of the best practices that we were able to highlight and really consider as we reviewed the data from this past year of summer 2018 and planning for summer 2019. So you're gonna see some of these tied in throughout our proposed plan. So first, going into actual GRPS summer programming and what it looks like. First, doing elementary. So, and this is focusing on the previous summer 2018. So the focus was on both reading and math using a prescribed curriculum. And those curriculum were Pearson's Ready Gen, which provides focused reading instruction, writing instruction, and independent practice. And then it also utilizes a computer program, Success Maker, that monitors students' progress and also adapts and has customized pacing. Then they also use Delta Math, which is also a computer-based program that provides standard-based reporting, paper-based progress monitoring, and tiered instructional support. So it was really providing that traditional classroom instruction in both reading and math. Overall, 534 students in kindergarten through 5th grade participated, with the largest group being in 2nd grade. And the smallest group were in 5th grade, and that is, so 2nd graders rising to 3rd grade. So they had just completed 2nd grade, moving into 3rd grade. The smallest group being just completed 5th grade, rising to 6th grade.
Of these 534 students, did we reach the kids we most wanted to reach in terms of the low economic kids? Okay.
Yep, so I'm gonna get to that, but
Okay.
over 90% of the students were eligible for free or reduced
Okay,
lunch.
all right.
Otherwise, the population pretty much mirrored that of a regular school. The eligibility, we recruited students that were at or below the 69th percentile in both reading and math, or they had a WIDA score of entering or emerging. So really trying to focus on those students that are most in need and really need the extra support. The program operated for 5 weeks for a total of 72 hours, Monday through Thursday. And the majority of students, 77%, were attending at a high rate, so between 13 and 18 days. And then, and with a low of 1 to 6 days, only 8%. So there's still some students that aren't attending as frequently, but that's still a pretty good attendance rate. Then there was also the 3 host sites. Students were eligible to attend based on their feeder pattern. It was at MLK, Harrison Park, and Southwest Community Campus. It wasn't that only those students at those schools were able to attend. It was based on the feeder pattern. And the way that it was calculated was based on the school need. So it wasn't based on school size, it was based on need, and that's how slots were allocated. So obviously, the overall goal of summer school is we want to reduce and even eliminate that summer loss that we were looking at.
How do you determine school need?
School need,
So based off the criteria, being 69% below on the fall MAP scores, and so we worked with our SDS team, and we take, so you have X amount of students that qualify under this at this school, and you have a smaller percentage at this school, and we have the slots accordingly. And so we make sure the schools that have the most neediest gets the most slots.
Do we know what percentage of kids that were under the 69% took advantage of summer school?
Last year, so there was, I don't have that number in front of me. I'm sure it's something we can get for you. But I know one thing we're doing this year was just 530 slots, I believe. I mean, students that showed up for summer school K through 5, and you're going to see later is we're increasing that number
Right.
just to hit more students as well.
So the 530 that you came up with last year, was that the number that we anticipated? Was that
We wanted more.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so with
Just
summer,
wondering.
yeah, with summer school, one of the challenges is, you sign up in March, but you have to attend in June. And so, we're trying to put really even stronger communication strategies to follow through.
Word out, yeah.
And get the students to come. So in regards to academic achievement, like I was saying, the overall goal of summer school is we really want to reduce and eliminate that summer loss that we were looking at that's occurring. And so to do so, we have to have a measure of academic change, specifically that academic change over the summer. So to calculate this, I used the MAP assessment RIT score. And with a RIT score, it's basically the best way to think about it is same as measuring students' growth in height with a tape measure. So the scale is an equal interval scale, and one RIT score is equal to the same thing no matter if they're in first grade or in fifth grade. The same thing as you were measuring someone that was 3 feet tall and grew 1 inch and someone that was 5 feet tall and grew 1 inch, it means the same thing. So that's the best way to translate what one RIT score is gonna mean. We expect RIT scores to increase over time, and initially when students are younger, they're gonna grow more substantially, and then it won't be as drastic as they start into the older grades.
So you give them the MAP test, and that's how you get the RIT score?
Yep,
Okay.
yes.
So, like during the school year, I know they give the MAP score to the kids in the fall and winter and
Fall,
spring.
winter, spring, yep.
Okay, and so then at the end of spring, is that their score then? And then when they go back in the fall, that's how you measure the growth?
Yep,
Okay, all
exactly.
right,
So
okay.
the summer growth, the way that I calculated it, was comparing the fall 2018, which was this past fall,
Right.
taking their RIT score, and then getting the difference between the previous spring.
Okay,
To look at
right.
what was the difference between how they performed before summer break and then after.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And then looking at that, and that's what I'm calling the summer growth or summer academic change.
okay.
Based on the NWEA has their 2015 RIT scale norm study, and it has what we would kind of expect students to be performing at in the RIT level based on the age and grade that they're at. And based on this, they've also done some research on summer loss, and we can expect students to drop anywhere between 3 and 5 RIT points during the summer. So we know that this is something that occurs, and that's based on the national study. So we're just really focusing on how we can reduce that and really make sure that our students aren't losing and they're coming back just where they left off. And so in this analysis, it's comparing the summer participants, so those students who participated, to the district average and using that summer growth. And then it's also, as I noted earlier, over 90% of the students who participated in summer school were economically disadvantaged. And we know based on research that those students who are economically disadvantaged tend to have greater summer learning loss. So to make sure that we had an adequate comparison, we compared and only included those students, which was still over 90% of those participants, to the district average for those students who are also economically disadvantaged. Oops, sorry, it's gonna go to sleep. Okay, I'll make sure I hit it. So the next couple slides are gonna go over what this looked like for that. And to start, I want to, because this similar graph is gonna be presented a couple more times, so I just kinda wanna do an overview of what is in this and what it means. So to start, we have the y-axis where that summer growth is. That's that calculation that I was just talking about, comparing that fall RIT to the spring RIT to look at what that difference was. And that's, you can see, ranging from 3 RIT points up to -5 RIT points. On the x-axis, it's presenting the grade level of the student. So this is comparing those elementary students in kindergarten through 5th grade. And then it's also...
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
are we looking at schools?
So this is all summer school participants by grade level.
Okay, so it's, doesn't matter if they were from Congress, Burton?
No.
Okay, so it's all, okay.
Yep. And then the two bars, you'll see the two different colors. The orange bar reflects those summer school participants, and the gray is a district average. And these are the averages. So you can see in the first bar, kindergarten, there's no orange bar. That means that students, on average, performed at the same spot in the fall than they did at the spring. So that's good because they didn't have any summer learning loss. In comparison, the district as a whole, they decreased on average by 1 RIT. And then if you look at first grade, they actually grew for those summer school participants by 1 RIT, whereas the district as a whole decreased by 1. I'm gonna skip over second grade, I'll come back to it in 1 second. But third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade, we can see that they maintained as well. Whereas the district average in third and fourth was decreasing. So we can really celebrate that because
Fifth
like
grade
I-
means that also the district average didn't change, okay.
Yes, yes. But we can see that summer school, and this is in reading, is helping those students eliminate that summer learning loss. And like I said, we can expect for students to lose between 3 and 5 RIT points. And we can see that we're eliminating that. So a couple points with second grade, we can see that they're showing the most loss out of all of the grades. One big piece with this is there's a change in testing that occurs between second and third grade. The spring semester of second grade students take the MAP Growth K2 test, which is a listening-based test and contains audio support. Then when they come back in third grade in that fall, they take the MAP Growth 2-5 test, and that is an independent reading test. So there's a big change in that, and that's what we can appoint some of that loss to. We also, as I said, students that are economically disadvantaged tend to lose more in reading comprehension and word recognition. That's what's needed on the third grade iteration of that test.
Well, then it seems to me like that second, third grade, we need some strategies either with parents or other kinds of ways that we try to emphasize or reinforce or
Reading.
give them some experiences that allow them to read in some way.
Yep, especially over the summer months of engaging that.
It looks like the next slide. is
Yes.
getting into.
Yes, perfect. So in talking about how we are proposing for summer 2019, we are really using that data and what we learned from summer 2018, along with the third grade reading law that we know is going to come into effect in the next academic year to propose the summer 2019 changes.
And so some big changes that we're doing this year. One of them that I just want to point to, remember the research talked about needing at least 80 hours of 80 hours of summer programming. Last year we had 72, and this year with our program being Monday to Thursday, with a longer time during the day, we're going to actually hit 95 hours. And so we want to increase it by 15 above the minimum amount of hours. And also, there were 530 slots K-5 last year. We're going to have 800 slots available for second grade students this year. And then also, the other change is last year they was at 3 different locations, but we think it's very important to be somewhat closer to your home school. We think that maybe help more students come and attend, so we're going from 3 sites to 9 sites for the elementary division.
So actually, maybe you're going to go into more detail, but I wanted people, this is one of the things I wanted, that I talked to the superintendent about. This is requiring us to change the way we do things, including what we pay for. So it's important that we're paying attention to this particular part because we'll have to support it financially.
So at the end of the slide, one of the things that I will ask you to do as board members is to take all of this information and consider taking to the full board a change in funding. In the past, we've spent dollars across the continuum for summer school, and we've noticed based on the data that we need to really focus on our current second graders, in order to get them ready for our third grade reading. And so the dollars will be about the same, but we're going to be much more intentional with the different grade spans that we're going to spend time with this summer. And so that will be one of the areas that we ask the board to support us in.
So we're going to have many more second graders. We're targeting them. We're still going to have it for the other kids if they want to come?
No.
Or No, we're just having it for second grade.
Elementary we are only going to ask for second grade, right? And then we will ask for middle school and high school. And we have our college and career readiness position that we also want to focus. So we're going to hit every grade span grouping, but not necessarily every grade. We found the greatest need is for our second graders because of the switch that Alex shared with you. We really want to prepare those students.
Sure.
But it is, back to Dr. Baker's point, we will be asking for support in a change of the way we spend our resources in order to get the gains that we need. Dr. Baker, does that cover?
Yeah.
And then I'll talk about
Yeah.
it more in detail, and we can answer any questions of the switch. But that's the reason that you see now this particular area of second grade that we're focusing on. And there's many components to that. Working with parents, our communication, we have a media blitz that we're going to try to do to encourage people, bringing them closer to home instead of getting on a bus going across town. I mean, so we're just trying to be very intentional for those little second graders.
And so this year's program will continue to be 5 weeks, starting June 17th and actually ending July 18th. This is just a small typo I see, with no program on the 4th of July. And so what that's going to allow us to really do, what we break them down is 4 hours of intensive but fun, direct reading instruction.
Yeah. It says Mill.
Yes, it will be. And then you see the sites, I'm not going to read them to you, but you see the sites that they're going to be at for this summer. And then we've already talked about kind of the criteria around the target population, who we're scoring, things of that nature as well.
So do we have a number, approximately how many kids this might, in terms of our second graders who might need this for summer school?
So we are going to, because we're funding this with grants, with grant dollars, we are going to target our current second graders, children that would like to come, that may qualify. But Title I now, because it's school-wide, all of our schools are school-wide, so we can offer it to any of the students in those buildings. Except for, we have a couple schools, Ridgemore Montessori is not school-wide yet, so we have to do a certain population, but every other school in the district, they're school-wide. So we can send out a blanket invitation and try to encourage.
And we will have spots for up to 800 kids, that's our goal, okay.
We've never had that many students participate, but we have never, as a district, really did a media blitz to be so intentional. We're gonna work with our barbers and our beauticians and churches and people in the community to try to help us get those little ones in. So this will be the first time that you guys will use this strategy to really maximize those 5 weeks.
So next up is Roseanne Wall. She is our ELA curriculum coordinator, and she is going to dive deeper into the ELA curriculum. So Roseanne?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So looking at the focus of second grade, right, and I heard Alex also mention word recognition and comprehension is so important as they move from second grade into third grade and they're reading connected text. Dr. Nelduke many times has stressed that the skills that students really need to be able to be successful when reading grade level text and analyzing grade level text really goes down to those foundations: print awareness, phonological awareness, letter sound, word reading strategies, fluency, right, word knowledge, and then those comprehension strategies. So really taking that into account and looking at the program we used last year that did show some, maintenance and gain, but focusing on the second grade, we wanted to think through what programs could we really use to help students with those foundation skills and really teach them word recognition, word knowledge within authentic text, so bringing it into context, and then also working on those comprehension skills.
Now, will these ELA kids be in the same classes with the other kids, or will they be separate?
The English language arts, so this is all, yeah. So
This will be all the
All right,
students.
okay.
Not
I was
ELL.
thinking of, all right, all
Yeah,
right.
so correct.
Wrong one, sorry.
That is later on our
That's
agenda.
later on, all right. Okay.
So for summer 2019, we're really going to have two main focus areas. So we're going to focus on vocabulary So building vocabulary and comprehension. So we're helping students build their understanding of authentic text. To do this, we're going to use ReadyGen again. And ReadyGen uses grade level text. It helps students access that grade level text, but it also provides supports for students to read at their independent Lexile level with leveled readers. So it gives them both the reading exposure. But we are also going to focus on the literacy foundation and word skills. And so really get to teaching explicitly the phonics and phonemic awareness, but within also context of the text. To do this, we're going to be using Imagine Learning, which language and literacy, which is a program that is adaptive. It's computer adaptive. It also measures a pre and a post. It takes students through different reading passages. And we're also going to look at Florida Center for Reading Research center activities. So the Florida Center for Reading Research has a number of research-based activities for each of those components of reading that really show that students who engage in these show growth. And so we are focusing on using those programs as well as the ReadyGen to really hit not only just comprehension, but the word strategies as well as comprehension. Thank you.
So we'll come back to the second grade.
So now we're going to talk about middle school programming, following a similar pattern, looking at the previous summer and then talking about the proposed programming for summer 2019. A lot of this is going to be pretty similar, so I'm not going to go through it as in much detail. The programming for 6th through 8th graders was the same logistically as the elementary. 266 students in 6th through 8th grade participated, with the largest group being in 6th grade, rising to 7th. They had similar high attendance rates of attending between 13 and 18 days, and the same eligibility. It was also a similar traditional classroom instruction in English language arts and math, and using the same curriculums. So we're also going to, like I said, this graph was going to pop up again, look at the growth experienced by the students. In this case, you can see that there's no gray bars. So on average, the district maintained in both 6th and 7th grade in regards to reading, whereas summer school participants on average in 6th grade increased by 1 RIT score, and in 7th grade increased by 3 RIT scores. 8th graders aren't included because they are rising to 9th grade and they do not take the MAP in 9th grade, so there's no way to calculate that summer growth.
Now, when the kids go in the middle school, they do the same thing, they do reading and math?
Yep.
Okay, no matter what, I mean, if they failed a math class or anything like that, that's not how it's determined?
So last year, the criteria was based on if you failed both of those. And so we made sure that if that's what you needed as well.
Okay.
And then I'm sorry, you had a total of 266 students that attended,
Yep.
right? But what was the total that you were seeking?
So there was three locations last year, and we had slots for 100 per location for 300 total students.
Okay.
And then this, we're also looking at the math. So in 6th grade, we can see that both the summer school participants in district averaged decreased by 1 RIT, but then the 7th grade students who participated in summer school actually grew by 2 RIT scores, where the district stayed the same.
And then this one is going to follow the elementary times when I said go from 72 hours to 95, or 72 or 74 hours to 95 hours, Monday through Thursday. The program is still going to be June 17th through July 18th with no school on July 4th. And then you see kind of the criteria with that. One thing I want to point out is last year we wanted a total of 300, and this year we bumped it up to 390. Based off our data that we want. And you see the sites that's going to be housed as well.
And then you increased it by an hour?
Yep, so what I
you're
did,
gonna
yep,
increase
this
it?
year to last year, academic programming for elementary and middle school was a total of 3 hours. And this year, how we got to the 95 was we increased it by an hour each day. And then last thing I was gonna show you here is the sites are Alger, Burton Middle, and CA Frost. So we want to spread them out across the city to make it more accommodating, for attendance.
So for middle school, just like in elementary, you focus on those foundations, which is, print awareness, phonics, and fluency, and phonemic awareness. Even in the middle school, we need to do some of that, but we look at decoding multisyllabic words, the strategies needed for that, together with, fluency, vocabulary, of course, and that comprehension. And so again, that would be our focus for the middle school students, looking at those word reading strategies, the word knowledge, fluency, and those comprehension. To do this, we're going to be using ReadyGen, which we also used last year, because that ReadyGen program actually has opportunities for rereading again, reading grade level text, reading level text at their independent level, but it also has targeted vocabulary instruction and word decoding strategies at the middle school level. And we are also going to add to that literacy circles so that students have an opportunity to read multiple texts, use a variety of authentic texts so that they can have, great discussions on these texts and really dig deeper into not only just reading, but analyzing the text.
Would this be like young adult literature, or would it be like Of Mice and Men or The Pearl?
It would be appropriate for, so the interest level would be
Okay.
6th grade through 8th grade.
Okay, so it probably wouldn't be
Mice and Men generally, Mice and Men is ready in our 9th grade.
Ninth grade,
so
okay.
I'm not using that, but definitely, it'll help them really engage with their critical thinking when they're reading and discussing with their peers.
okay.
I think it's important, though, that we have books that children are interested in around their own culture as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that's absolutely what we try to stress here during summer school.
Good afternoon. I'm Amy Powney, the math curriculum coordinator. I'm just going to briefly address the middle school math curriculum for the summer school for this summer. It is based on a program called Delta Math, and just as a precursor to that, there's a statement up there about an NWEA score that students need to have a 235 is how NWEA identifies algebra ready, and it's the standard that we use. We know that we need to make sure that students are ready, and that's a goal because of Algebra 1. It's a gateway in high school to high school success, right? We know how important that is. So Delta Math's an intervention program, and it utilizes several evidence-based practices that have shown to increase achievement in students who are at risk at both the elementary and middle school level. And so I've listed some of those practices. First of all, universally screening all students. So this program comes with a pre and post screener. That's the part that's online, is that they take a pre-screener and post-screener that is at the beginning and end of summer school. And it's based on power standards that are identified from the grade level they just completed that are related to algebra readiness. So the research tells us that when you are in grades 4 through 8, that you should be targeting fluency and flexibility with rational numbers, so whole number operations with multi-digit numbers and decimals and fractions in order to prepare for Algebra 1. And so that is where their focus is, the power standards in those grade levels on those topics. So that's the standards that are tested on the pre and post. The teachers will then have immediate data to work from through summer school on how they're doing on those standards. And then there are Tier 2 intervention lessons. Using explicit systematic instruction, focusing on visual representations for students that they get in small group with the teachers. And then there is weekly progress monitoring so that we're constantly checking for progress throughout that course of intervention lessons, and the students have the ability to self-monitor as well and see how their own growth is going. And then also one of the practices that the research that I've referenced talks about is that they also need daily work with retrieval of basic facts. We just know that students need to have that basic fluency with fact and ability to manipulate numbers because they're going to be doing more complex thinking. They need to free up their working memory to be able to do that. So we also combine that Delta Math program as they're doing the small group. We also have Imagine Math Facts, which is an online fact fluency program, and we do number talks. We train teachers to do number talks in the classroom as a daily routine so that they start to build that mental math and computation ability.
How does this fit with the way they're learning math through their school year?
So the new math program, right?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's all standards aligned. So they've been working on the same Common Core standards all year long. And it's aligned in the sense that we are focusing on those areas that the Go Math program, for instance, spends the majority of its time and focus in the major, what we call the major focus standards. And those match up with what those aligned standards are in the Delta Math program because we know that's how Common Core is organized to show what the work that needs to be done to be algebra ready. So it focuses on the same ones that are emphasized in the Go Math program as well. But it's giving them a small group tiered intervention lesson.
Will there be a parental support online for parents who want to work with their kids at home?
Yes, the Imagine. So Delta Math is not an online program other than the screening process.
Okay.
The intervention lessons are done small group with teachers. But the Imagine learning piece of it, the Imagine Math Facts, is all available to be used at home. It's a web-based program, so they can actually work on that at home as well.
Okay.
Thank you. So one additional component to the middle school piece after mathematics and ELA is also a social emotional learning component. So to talk more about that is a passion deal.
Good afternoon, everyone. So one of the reasons why we chose to do a social emotional learning component in middle school is because that sort of tends to be the sticky part of students' education 6 through 9, and that's where we see an increase in office discipline referrals and suspensions. And according to our data, we know that students are typically struggling with nuisance behaviors like disruption of class, insubordination, language, things like that. We also know that students in middle school are struggling to sort of figure out who they are, where they fit in the pecking order. And as they go from a small elementary school into a comprehensive middle school with students that they don't know, they're just trying to figure out, sort of where they fit in. And Alex did a report for us about indicators that we can track in middle school that will tell us how whether or not a student will be on track by the end of 9th grade. And so out of that report, one of the recommendations came that, students who are struggling in middle school, specifically students going from 8th grade to 9th grade, we just need to funnel resources towards those students in mentoring, tutoring, SEL instruction, and use of technology. So in GRPS, and most of you guys have heard sort of what we've been doing around SEL as we've been part of the Wallace grant and defining what SEL is for us. We've adopted sort of the whole child learning, and we know that you have to address all needs in all aspects of students, including academics, and part of the way of sort of breaking through with students is building relationships and making sort of conducive communities where students feel safe and ready to learn. So this stool is something that, we adopted it from Castle, and a lot of other districts use, but there are 4 components of putting SEL or implementing SEL in schools, which is culture and climate, and that's sort of our PBIS, what we've been doing for years. Then you have explicit instruction of SEL and family and community engagement, because we can't do it alone, and then integration of SEL into other aspects of curriculum. And some of the competencies for SEL: self-management, self-awareness, building positive relationships, empathy, making good decisions. All of these sort of traits are what students are going to need to be successful in school, but also out of school. And not just our students, but our staff as well. And so one of the things that we would like to do is to give all of our middle school students a pretest to get a baseline of where they feel like they are in regards to some of their social emotional skills. And we get to choose the areas in which we pretest. And so we would probably choose self-awareness, self-management, and then maybe grit or perseverance. And so they'll take a pretest on the second day of summer school to give us a baseline, but what we would like to do for each day is for the classroom teacher to open up with a community building circle. It just builds community in the classroom and makes an environment where students sort of trust each other, and they also trust the teacher. The students would engage in their instruction, and then this is something that we haven't done before, but we would like to do this summer, is have a specific amount of time where students receive direct SEL instruction. And after that, they would engage in physical activities, like collaborative activities that would sort of solidify what they learned in their direct instruction, and it would give them an opportunity to, try out the skills that they learned, fail, relearn, those types of things. And we also know that physical activity is great for, opening up the brain and neural pathways and all of that good stuff.
So this is going to be a part of the middle school
Yes.
curriculum? Okay.
Yes. And so each day, we are looking at least 15 minutes of direct SEL instruction, and then 20 to 25 minutes of sort of cooperative physical learning to try out the SEL skills.
And this is new to this coming summer.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We've
Which-
never had a explicit SEL component. We've had, staff pushing into classrooms, doing one-on-ones with students, and we'll still have that during the day for students who need that extra dosage of sort of one-on-one time with the staff to work directly on maybe some behaviors that they are struggling with. But we are looking to do sort of like a ratio of 20 to 1. So we would have one staff member delivering direct SEL instruction to 20 students, and then going into the gym and trying it out together.
So if this is successful, is this something that we could see happening in our regular school year?
We would like to. So the students will take a post-test at the end of summer school, and we would like to see what the growth is. And our goal is, if we do see growth, then figuring out a way to implement direct instruction during the school year. One of the ways is through after-school programming. That's a fairly easy on-ramp that doesn't necessarily take away from classroom instruction. But what we do know is that you can lose instructional time dealing with behaviors, and if you sort of front load these social emotional skills at the beginning, you lose less instructional time as the year goes on.
Absolutely.
So is this social emotional, is this a specific curriculum where the lesson plans are already going to be written out for the teachers?
So the program that we're using right now is called Panorama, and it is a program that allows the students to take the pretest, and based on the student scores, it gives a playbook of research-based activities and strategies that can be accessed by teaching staff and support staff. And you can choose whether you want something that's very quick, or you can choose something that will take 3 weeks to implement. So the research-based strategies is built into the program.
I just think it's a great idea. It's a great
think so.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll transition into high school summer program. Alex?
Yep. Okay, so high school programming is a little bit different than the elementary and middle, as its focus is purely on the credit recovery. So the students that are eligible are those students that failed at least one course at the end of the first semester. The 359 students in 9th through 12th grade participated, and the only site was at Grand Rapids University Preparatory Academy, and they use E2020 to do the credit recovery. So in this situation, academic achievement is considered the number of credits that a student is obtaining and earning during the summer, because it's putting them on track to graduate on time. So students earn between 1 and 5 credits with an average of 1.5 credits. And then the tables below are breaking down the number of students that participated in those core subject areas. So you can see the largest number of students participated in an English class or a math class, with those broken down into the different classes within that core area of being English, literature, analysis, and interpretation. And then in math, you can see a big group were in algebra, financial math, and geometry.
So if a kid failed both English and math, would he be able to earn the credits back in the summertime?
So when high school students enter our summer school, there's a transcript audit, which is done right away. And working with the counselor, the teacher, and the student, and in many cases our parents, we determine what's the best course for that student to take at that particular time. In some instances, it may not be good for students to have multiple classes at once, so they complete one and then begin another one. But it's really just on a case-by-case individual basis.
So they could really then earn both of them back?
It's amazing how how motivated students are, especially the ones who still would like to be considered this year 2019 graduates. And as you know, from a state's perspective, every student we graduate in the summer counts toward that graduation count for that previous year. So it's just case-by-case basis. Students can take multiple classes. What's great about the online piece is that they can do much of the work at home.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, Alex?
All right, good.
So with summer 2019, it's going to be the same with credit recovery, focusing on that piece as well. It'll be similarly at Grand Rapids University Prep. And the eligibility, there's the 3 priority levels, with the first priority being the 4th or 5th year seniors with 1 to 2 core class failures. Priority level 2, 11th grade students with 1 or more core course failures. And then 3 being those 10th graders. And then there's a separate criteria for 9th grade students. You can see that we're hoping to serve up to 250 students per session. There's going to be 2 sessions, with 9th grade serving up to 50, and then 10th grade 180 students.
Roseanne, really quickly, English piece, please. Thank you.
So for high school, as we're looking into credit recovery, and also knowing that we have a shortened week of time, and us knowing our standards are all stacked, so 9th and 10th grade, the standards are 9th and 12th grade, we'll look at a condensed version of our curriculum. And so we use the Odell units, which are core proficiency units. So what these units did was they took those like power standards that students really need to show proficiency or mastery their grade level standards. And they are built to be considered as credit recovery. And so we use those, and so far those have been successful in helping.
And these are online or
They
paper?
can be got online, but we actually, print
paper
them
bills.
and give the teachers the binding, because there are student activities that students have to do. There are teacher guides and teacher lessons. There's class discussion happening. There's research happening, on-demand writing happening. So it covers all the literacy skills students need.
So if a kid fails English 10, would he or she be in the same class that English 11, or would be a totally different curriculum?
So the students, so in some instances, based on numbers, there may be multiple classes going on simultaneously. Of course, if there are 20 students who need English 10, the likelihood of that being one class of English 10 is pretty good. But in some instances, you may have 3 or 4 students who need English 9, 3 or 4 who need English 10, et cetera.
And this Odell, these units would have them particular for each of the classes?
Correct.
So even if they were all in there together, they would all be working?
Correct. So they are built as a 9th grade units and 10th grade
Right.
units.
Okay,
11th grade,
good.
12th.
Yep.
However, knowing that 9th and 10th standards are also stacked, there is direction on how, if you had 9th and 10th grade students in the same class, you could use the units.
Okay.
And you might have said this, but the instruction is done by individual teachers, or they are teachers, so it's not the 2020 as last year?
Yeah,
So that's a major shift.
Yeah, so in summer school, there are many instances where students have begun the online work, so the summer is a continuation of the online work. There are some instances where a student has been relatively successful with traditional face-to-face instruction and maybe just needs to complete a couple of units to show proficiency. And in those instances, what we do is we take the teacher's online gradebook, look for the standards that weren't mastered, and then teach those standards specifically until the student gets to mastery.
So they do
It's
do
a
it
mix.
according to
It's a
what
mix.
they missed.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And how do you choose the teachers that'll teach that, or what are they?
Yep, so there is in the next, after Dr. Gunnell talks about our English learner support, we'll get into summer programming from a staffing perspective. Okay? Amy, really quickly, mathematics? Thank you.
So similar for mathematics, you saw in the original slide that Alex shared with you, the courses that are often taken in the summer are MME courses that are required and sometimes financial literacy. So typically, we've worked, the teachers in the summer have come together in past summers and created unit recovery from the materials that we use during the year. But we also have Algebra Nation, which is a program, it's a blended print and online program that the state supports now, that just began a year ago, that has some supplemental. It's really nice because our students then get also additional support. There are videos with differentiated people teaching a lesson, the student gets to choose the tutor, and they all teach in different styles so that they can find the tutor that best fits them.
Is this available during the regular
Yes.
school year to all?
It absolutely is, yeah. So we have our traditional materials, our Go Math materials, but then Algebra Nation is also available because, like I said, it's being supported by the state.
Okay.
And so we have that as a
So
supplemental.
parents can just go online and get that, or do they have to go through the school to?
Oh, you can, if the teacher, if we're using it in the classroom, yes.
Oh, okay,
The student
okay.
has an account.
Okay.
Just like, same as with their Go
All
Math,
right,
they can
okay.
go online and do that as well. And then obviously there are students who do, as Dr. Gorman said, for various reasons, have those courses through E2020. But between the Algebra Nation and then our Go Math materials where we create unit recovery that includes pre and post assessments for regular progress monitoring to make up those credits.
So are these the 4 classes then that are required for graduation? Algebra 1, 2, geometry, and financial?
Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry are the MME required courses for
Okay.
graduation, and then students are required to have a 4th year math credit, a math-related credit.
Okay.
Students do that in various ways. So some students do pre-calculus, some students do financial literacy. There are other types of courses that aren't actual math courses, but are math-related, so accounting,
Oh, okay.
even physics can
Okay.
count as a math-related course. So different students take different things to fulfill that, and that's usually worked out between the counselor and the student and the parents as to when they're planning their program.
And how does that compare to what they're going to experience in college? So they're first-year college students. They've gone through our 4 years of math and then had this 5th or 4th year math. How ready are they to do college math?
So the Michigan Merit Curriculum, when it was created, was essentially set up so that students would be prepared for college. Prior to the Michigan Merit Curriculum, there were very few graduation requirements in the state of Michigan, 2 of which were a government class and a physical education class. The Michigan Merit Curriculum put in the 4 years of math, the algebra, the geometry, the algebra 2, the 4th year of mathematics. So our curriculum in the state of Michigan is a strong curriculum that prepares students for college. Now in that senior year, you can take pre-calculus, which you probably know will really set you up for college, but maybe in your senior year you may want to take a financial literacy course. Not saying that won't set you up for college, but that may be a course that's more beneficial in regards to figuring out interest rates, compounding interest, things of that nature. So it's a course that prepares you for life and also for your institutions or voc ed.
If students can do Algebra 2, they're fine.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so with college math. And
Good point,
those
Dr. Baker.
courses also become not just whether or not you can do college math, but whether you get into college, because the math score on the SAT basically is a gatekeeper, so.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you, Amy. So before we get into the summer programming staffing piece, we're going to ask Dr. Gunnell to come up and talk about support for our English language learners. Dr. Gunnell?
Good afternoon.
Good.
So I'm here to talk about the ELL component, and our goal always is to provide additional support for our EL students. And how we do that is a variety of ways. So the first thing is we provide both an 8, because I know your agenda said 2018 and 19. And we've always provided within the morning program for our students, we always provide ESL certified teachers to work alongside with the classroom teachers to help not only supplement, but also teach our EL students. In addition to that, our EL students have an additional time period that they will stay, and it's 2 hours. And what happens in those 2 hours, it's ESL strategies and support to help them learn the English language and be successful as our students. And that entails using the REACH program, and also REACH is for elementary students and middle school, and then we have the inside for high school.
Okay, I just have a question about the
Yes.
English language learners. And I know that we have so many kids with so many languages, but I'm just thinking about, we have a large population of Spanish-speaking kids. So when they go into summer school, will summer school be presented to them in Spanish, or will they be?
No, there are ESL certified teachers
So,
speaking English.
okay.
So our goal is for students to be successful and learn English.
As young as second grade, we would be giving them we wouldn't be just teaching them English, we'd be teaching them their math skills in English even?
Correct.
Okay. But
Teachers,
they have to have passed that test in order to do that?
the
Because
WIDA,
Yeah,
you don't pass the WIDA. There's certain levels of WIDA. So entry level, you're just learning the basics of a language, and as you learn more, the complexities of language, you move up. EL students have to take the WIDA every spring.
okay.
As a matter of fact, the window period for WIDA has started. It's not spring, it's February.
Okay.
But they have to take it every spring until they get exited from the program.
So are you saying then that these kids will do the 4 hours that everybody else is doing, and then they would stay an extra time?
They stay additional time in the afternoon. And that is funded through Title III,
Okay.
because it's above and beyond what they get in the morning.
Will there be certain schools that are designated ELL schools for summer?
Within the program, there will be schools that are EL, yes,
Okay.
throughout the district.
So part of your transformation plan, we switched from having language centers to cultural centers. And so at many of our schools, at most of our schools, we have students that are from all over, right? My question really is around, instead of one particular school, Kathy, I wanted to see if you were talking about the summer migrant
Well,
program.
and not only that, but I
And
mean, we
so-
do have immigrants come here who have no language skills at
That's
all.
correct.
And now I know that's the newcomers program, is that what we put
Yeah.
them in? Okay.
The newcomers program is for high school students.
Oh, just high school
Right.
kids. What about
Yes.
little kids?
Yeah, that's,
We have cultural centers
Oh, all
where
right,
teachers are
okay.
trained
Okay.
to teach EL students.
Okay.
We have a variety of languages. We have over 50 languages.
So, but it is important, but that instruction is done in English.
The
by
instruction
people-
is
By
done-
people trained to teach English language learners. It's
Right.
not bilingual education.
Right.
Okay, so
Not bilingual education. It's, what we have at Southwest Community Campus is dual language immersion, and that vision and philosophy is that you will be totally bilingual by the time you leave Southwest Community Campus. Right now, at 8th grade, so you would start in preschool, and
But you would learn English. I mean, you would be an English speaker learning Spanish,
That's dual programming.
Right.
Or
So
the
you-
other way around.
Right.
or the other way around.
So we have both learners at Southwest. We have students that come to us knowing only Spanish, and some that come to us knowing only English. But the goal is for biliteracy, bilingual at the end of that
So
program.
nobody's at a disadvantage. I mean, it seems like everybody comes in there. Though I'm worried about the kids who speak Spanish, because obviously, would everybody in the building then be able to speak Spanish, be able to talk to these kids?
Which
or-
building, you mean in
For
summer school?
Again,
In summer
the
school-
philosophy we have, I mean, and the resources that we have are that that it's English language, that we have staff that are trained to teach English language learners in English.
But we have, I think, 130 teachers in the district that are bilingual teachers. And those teachers can apply to become a summer school teacher,
Okay.
right?
And to add to Mrs. Neal, Superintendent Neal, if you're bilingual, those teachers usually have an ESL certification. So it's both.
Right.
They speak the language and they have ESL certification.
But there are different philosophies about this, correct?
Yes.
There's different models,
Okay.
yes. And one model is the ESL model, and we utilize that model for summer school. The other model that you were speaking of is the dual language immersion model. But they both have the component of English as a second language.
Okay,
That and English literacy, because we have to be readers in English.
right. And I understand that part. I just know that there's,
And there's one other piece, and
Concerns.
maybe this is for a future meeting, because we have the consolidated application, and so based on certain grants, there are certain requirements. And so part of this would come under the requirements of a Title III program or
Okay.
bilingual program. And so that may be for future
Okay.
to learn the various programs based on
Sorry.
grants.
What about those kiddos in kindergarten and first grade at Southwest who are in 90 to 100% Spanish-speaking classrooms the whole year? At summer school, will they be in English-speaking classrooms for summer school?
Summer school for this year is for elementary for second grade.
Okay. And they do, okay. They transfer more to English in third grade, which will be their upcoming year, correct? Okay.
Current second graders will go into third grade to take the test. And there are students from all of our schools, all of our elementary schools, so Southwest Burton Buchanan campus. We have students from every single elementary school that's on the list as a possible candidate for summer school. Yeah.
And within that, there's EL students. Thank you.
What's the number of students that we're looking at here?
For what? For summer school?
For summer school.
I think they showed
No,
the slide
she's-
was
you
800
mean the
students.
number of EL
Yeah,
students
yeah.
in summer school?
So the EL students for elementary is 800, and within that, there's I'm sorry, I said that backwards. The number of students for second grade is 800, but within the 800, there are English language learners.
Right. And we just don't know the number.
and we just don't know how many that might be.
Well, I can get a number for you, but I don't want to say how many. I
But
would
just
like
a
to
guess,
tell
a
you the
percentage?
I
exact.
wouldn't guess,
No.
because we can give you the breakdown, the
Yeah, 'cause
PEB
I-
breakdown of all those students, how many black students you have, how many males, how many females, how many white, how many Hispanic.
But you're going to need
We
to
can give
know
you
how
that.
many students are going to need EL programs.
Yes, we
So,
have,
'cause it's- yeah.
yes, we do. We will know how many students are coming to us that need those services. And we plan for it ahead of time.
We don't need to second guess you, right? We'll let you figure it out.
Yep.
So,
Okay, the last section of our presentation before we end with Superintendent Weatherall-Neal is on our staffing. So Mr. Atkins or Alex?
So I can just speak to briefly the summer 2018, what the criteria was. So assistant superintendents and executive directors use the following criteria to select the staff to hire for summer school, starting with their evaluation, only highly effective or effective, low failure rates, their attendance, and then also tripod only as a tiebreaker. And then you can see there is a total of 39 staff that were hired, a principal at each building, secretaries, and then we have the ELA and math teachers as well as those that were ESL certified. We also wanted to look at why teachers were interested in applying to and participating in summer school. And we did look at all of the students, staff, and some parents were also surveyed. And this was one of the questions on the teacher survey, just to identify how we can recruit and retain these teachers, especially going forward, as we know how important it is to have these highly effective grade level and subject level expertise staff. And these were the main buckets that they were noting, which was additional income, their ability to continue to support their students during the summer, to help prepare them for the upcoming year, and then to try new teaching practices. And for summer 2019, it's going to be similar criteria, but staff are only going to be invited to apply. And then I think as we spoke about earlier, there's also going to be a summer school coordinator position that we're hoping that will kind of oversee the planning, coordination, and implementation of the entire program. Now I'm going to hand it over to Superintendent Neal to talk through the rest of that.
So with the staff, my cabinet and I, we will actually go through each individual application to make sure that we have teachers teaching that with a proven track record for the staff for summer school. Knowing that we have the 5 weeks to get this done, we are very hands-on in making the selection. That's one. We are also very hands-on in the professional development that takes place prior to summer school in order to continue. And then the last piece around the budget for the board is we will ask for approval through the budgeting process, the regular budgeting process that the board goes through as part of this summer school, because this is a switch in our philosophical belief around how best do we spend the resources for 5 weeks. It isn't that we didn't have summer school before, but we are being very targeted in 2 areas. One is around the need for second grade, and the other is around actually teaching children social emotional learning strategies in order to reduce the suspensions and so forth. And we'll work with parents on that as well, because we don't want our kids to learn something here and go home or to the neighborhood and do something else. So it really is coordination, so.
And then really, one of the last pieces around high school is, even though we have many students attending the high school summer school, our job is to ensure that those students who are taking advantage of summer school courses are able to matriculate into college when they conclude summer school. So, of course, we'll be working with Shayla Willis with 2 College Through College. That will continue. Lots of support through Grand Rapids Community College. They showed up at all of our summer school special events last year to ensure that we created a pathway for them for higher education. So we're going to continue that this year.
And there's one other part that you don't see here. We partner with many, many organizations in this community around our summer learning. And so although we may be serving 1,000 kids through this program, we are serving hundreds and hundreds of students outside. We have camps through our colleges, some other programs that our kids will be participating with. Believe Become, we are partnering with John and Nancy Kennedy on our summer school programs as well. So there are other partners that will come to the table, and at some point you will see a handout, a booklet of all of the programs that we're partnering with. They're not all GRPS. We just don't want our kids to sit home all summer, and so we're using our community partners to make this happen. So Mel or someone will give you a book at some point to show the hundreds of programs that we participate with during the summer.
There's one really good one from Ferris that comes
That's right.
down and
Absolutely, phenomenal.
But it is a good example. So I know that
That's
GRCC and Ferris will have a
Davenport has
total
something.
of just the 2 junior level courses. There'll be Ferris will have 25 to 30, and then GRCC has, I think, somewhere between 40 to 60. So, 50 to 80 students will be doing a math class.
That's right.
Which also ends up increasing their ability to do 12th grade math. And sometimes it's in lieu of some of those credit recovery, because because it's the same thing, but it's college level math. So it is, and there's a lot of, and I know that that's true all the way down, including community-based organizations, which is still connected to GRPS.
That's right.
And the programs are set up in collaboration with GRPS. It's just that GRPS isn't running them. So,
Absolutely. To conclude, you had a couple of action items that I just want to share with you, a couple of outstanding questions. One question was, what percentage of students who are below 69% in math and reading took advantage of summer programming in 2018? So that was a question that was asked. We will get that answer for you. And then secondly, how many English learners are in the summer school program for 2018? Right? So we will get those two questions answered for you and work with Superintendent Neal so she can get that information
But
to
on
you.
the first question, we need to know how many students did we invite? So it isn't how many participated, it's how many students did we invite? So you have to answer both questions. So we
Absolutely.
may
I'll
or
make
may
sure we do
not
that.
have that for last year.
Yep.
Because it's how many letters did you send out and what did you do, right?
Absolutely, Superintendent. Thank you.
In equals.
okay. So are we gonna, couple things is I wanted to kind of summarize some of the key changes that I wanted to just note, but I also wanted to know, are we gonna need to, what will this group need to do in terms of preparing the rest of the board for?
Other than
implementing
putting on
this?
your shades? No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. It's a little bright.
So, because you're going to
yeah.
take the budget implications from this to the finance committee.
That's
So
right.
then this, which is nice because these are major changes. And so now we've got the academic achievement committee knows it and then the finance committee can know. So when it gets to the board, we should all be very aware of what we're supporting. So just the second grade focus is a key shift. The increased sites for the elementary and
That's
middle
right.
schools was a shift. Adding social emotional learning in for the middle school, which I know is key. And the way instruction is done with the high school students so those are pretty big key differences.
There's a couple more that I would add. One is data-driven. And so we didn't just pick second grade because we like the little ones. It is all data-driven. So that's one. I think that's extremely important. And then our connection with helping our students once they graduate to get through college. So taking advantage of that, our to college through college, that summer piece is something new that we've never really focused on before. And I think that's really important because we lose students that summer after they leave us. So those 5 major pieces.
And I think that the second grade piece can be a real model for the state. Because
Absolutely,
other places,
absolutely, Dr.
and
Baker.
if we figure out how to do this well, and it's not just, my sense is that we're not just doing it so that way we have better third grade scores, but it's
That's
that we know that they need to read by the time they're in third grade, and if they can't, then we got a problem.
That's
And
right.
focusing on second grade. So I think that's a major shift. It does seem like one thing that we might want to be prepared for are parents who are concerned about kids that aren't in second grade.
That's right.
And so I
And
think
we've
that we
talked
need to
that
think through that or be prepared to bring our concerns that we hear to.
Well, and I think that the book or brochure with all the opportunities citywide
That's right. That's
will
right,
be
Kim.
something to point
Yeah, that's true,
parents to
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, so.
And that's one of the ways that and we've talked about this at great length at the cabinet, because people will feel they're left out of this. We have GRASP that we did not talk about, right? And so that's a program that we have for parents to work with their students. We've also talked about not only having GRASP and mailing that in, but do we open up a couple of sites so we have staff on board to help parents navigate that? Because that can be tricky. And so we talked about that. I think that's there. The other is our partnership with the public library, encouraging children to read. And so there are other things that we are doing. It's just we are asking the board to focus our resources based on the group that is the neediest. And the reason is we only have 5 weeks. We need to be very intentional, and we need to put these children back on the right path because the research is real clear. If we can catch them in second grade, they will be on their way.
Now, does GRASP go through 8th grade or 7th grade the last year you get GRASP?
I think it goes through 8th grade.
Goes through 8th grade?
8th grade, not Dr. 8th grade.
I think too,
I know.
what
So,
was alluded to here, for parents who have kids that perhaps are at grade level, but are really seeking enrichment to be able to really have that or have the options of having that as opposed to not.
And the Title I, so the consolidated application, it really is for those children. We have to first focus on children that are behind,
Right.
right? That's really the grant. And we're not using Board of Ed dollars for summer school. These are grant dollars. And so we have to focus on that population first. That's number one. The second thing is, we don't educate children just in a vacuum. We have to use the community. The Van Andel Institute has programs, Grand Valley State University, there are community programs in the churches.
Yeah.
Is how do we come together as a community to say, this is a need, and how can we partner to help you get there, right? We know if we leave it up to parents that have the most resources, they're gonna be the first to sign up. And that is not the intent of summer school for this particular year, right? And so that's the support, Dr. Baker, that I'm asking the board, is to switch to focus on the neediest children in this community. And let's give them the extra 5 weeks, this extra dosage here of summer.
A couple things before we adjourn I'm trying to remember, I think I'm forgetting one, but the 2 other major topics that we want to explore in the coming months is, one is the Ottawa Hills Academies. And I'd like to work with, so this has come up since we had our a work session discussing this, is to review, we can talk about when this happens, but to review the process, I think the Center of Innovation process in general,
That's
just how do we choose, but also how will the board make decisions, the board and the, make decisions in the future about adding academies into Ottawa Hills. We have one academy moving in,
Right.
and then there are others that are proposed, but we'll need to create a process. And I'd like those to come through the Academic Achievement
I
Committee,
agree.
so that way we can have a real agreement as to what those should look like, and whether we do them all at once, or whether we do one at a time. I mean, that's something that we'll have to figure out. The second thing that we're going to review at some point, and in a way that allows the board ownership over the process, is the teacher evaluation process. And I'll work with Superintendent Nill on a timeline for those 2. I think I'm forgetting, seems like I'm forgetting one other.
Well, the last one we were going to talk about is the transformation, sort of in
Yeah.
May, just to give you an overview of the transformation plan and how you got here. And I like the idea of it coming through the Achievement Committee for all of these. One is, at the end of the day, this is all around academic achievement. So we spent quite a long time, years actually, talking about the teacher evaluation, and so through this achievement committee, and so we'd like to bring that through again if there are possible changes, so that this committee will have a chance. So that may take a couple of meetings.
Right.
It'll take more than one, I think, for you to come up to with a decision, but we wanted to set the agenda for the next 4 months, so that we can give whatever it is that you need to make the decision to start the school year. And Dr. Baker, I would ask that Dr. Gorman will lead that discussion around the Ottawa Hills
Okay.
High School, and Rodney Lewis will be a part of it, but
Yes.
that will be under Dr. Gorman,
Okay.
so if that's okay.
And you want to discuss now when we'll do that, or we can do it? We can do it.
Whatever you'd like, we're prepared to.
Let's
can
just,
schedule a
I'll
meeting.
schedule a meeting with you and Ron,
Okay,
and
cool.
we'll
Yeah.
schedule for we'll figure out the timeline for the rest of the topics.
good.
And then if there's other topics that you think, but again, I think that we're kind of shifting this to be more of a role like the Finance Committee has, is that not where we're approving courses or curriculum, but that we are major shifts to, and kind of owning the transformation plan in the future. So that way we have a process in place, and we understand the process as we go through this transition, so. All right, cool, meeting adjourned.
Good job.
Thank you.